All right, all right. Well, welcome everyone to the mid-year retirement readiness check. Our federal employees here. We want to make sure that you're on track, no matter where you are in federal service. We want to make sure that you are ready to have everything in place for your retirement, no matter if it's 10 years from now or it's coming up at the end of this year. We want to make sure you're ready. So, this is part of a monthly webinar series that I have started. So if this is your first time, welcome. If you were here from one of the past webinars, welcome back. I want you to continue to keep coming because I'm going to give you a lot of information. I'm going to try to keep it within this 1 hour, so please bear with me. Since this is being recorded, again, please keep your audio on mute, and the recording will be shared after the webinar, so you can be able to go back and look at it at your leisure if you missed something. So don't feel that you have to write down all the information. So let's get started. So one thing I want to ask you, and if you're comfortable, I want you to type into the chat your response. If nothing changed between now and retirement, how confident will you feel or would you feel about your readiness? So let me ask it again, even though it's on the slide. I want you to give your score. 1 is the lowest, 2 is the highest. I mean, 10 is the highest. So just let me know, where you are. So not confident. Okay, we see we have 4, say 3, so 2s. Okay, all right. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through this information today. And as we go through it, your confidence may increase by the time that we finish, but you're going to have some information. And don't feel it's not unfortunate. You're in the right place at the right time, So just make sure that as we're going through the information, that you are taking mental notes if you can't write down things. And again, this information will be shared with you to um, in order for you to be able to review at your leisure of anything that you might miss. Sometimes, if you hear something more than once, then you say, oh, I don't remember hearing that, or it sticks a little bit more. So you want to make sure that you're doing that. All right. And let's get started, right? So during today's session, we're going to talk about several things. But why is it important to talk about this right now? Well, the mid-year retirement um, is something that's very important to review your information during the middle of the year. We know that most of the time we look at mid-year, probably around March or April, when either you are worried about or dealing with performance, that mid-year performance appraisal that you have to deal with, or the fiscal year, the financial fiscal year for the federal government is around March or so. But the actual middle of the year is right now in July. And we've already gone through 6 months of this year. And now is a great time for you to review your benefits. Why is this a great time? Because it is right before you have open season enrollment. It is right before people who are planning on retiring at the end of a year to say, hey, let me take this deep dive look at what I have so I can make educated decisions about my benefits and make any changes that I need, any updates, know what services I have, what's provided to me, so I can move with clarity and confidence into life after federal service, or as I continue my federal service, I know what I need to continue to review as I'm approaching retirement. So, for those that don't know you, you told me something about you. So those who don't know me, let me tell you something about me. As I mentioned, my name is Sharon Harrell, and I am the founder of Royalty Business Group, LLC. I'm a federal benefits and retirement consultant and also a retirement lifestyle coach. I received my credentials as an associate certified coach under the International Coaching Federation, and I'm a retired federal employee. Yay. 35 years of federal service. And I came out last year in 2025. And the majority of time as a federal employee, I worked in benefits and retirement. At one time, I was the branch chief of the agency that I worked for. So I have a lot of expertise in benefits and retirement under the federal government as applies to the rules and regulations. But I do want to make sure you understand I am not a financial planner or anyone that gives financial advice. So this webinar, as well as my others, are for educational purposes only. I want you to understand that I'm not going to be providing any financial, legal, tax, medical, mental health, or personal advice for you. Each of you have your own unique retirement journey. And each one of you need to talk to someone that is licensed in those financial, legal, tax matters in order to make sure that you are on the right track. What I'm here to do is to give you the information and even work with you individually to say, okay, these are the rules and regulations. Let me hear what your service history is, what your life plans on being after retirement, and I can tell you how to make sure that it aligns based on the rules and regulations of the federal government. But don't forget, you do have your other agencies that you can reach out to, like OPM, your HR office for your agency, the Thrift Savings Plan, Social Security, or any licensed professional that can help you in this matter. Also, I want you to be aware again that this is being recorded and that you can type your questions into the chat or you can hold them until the end and we could go over them after that. Once the recording and the presentation is done, I'm going to stop the recording and then I'll address it because I don't want your personal information to be shared out for other people to see on the recording. And if you wish, which I would love for you to do, is schedule a complimentary 15-minute consultation with me. You know, it gives you an opportunity to sit down with me one-on-one and be able to talk about some things that you might have in mind or you didn't have time to ask a question about. So if you scan the QR code, and I'm going to put the link in the chat, so just bear with me while I get to that document with the link. Come on, Sharon. I apologize. I'm gonna get it for you. And you will be able to schedule the information. I think I have it already. Nope. I'm gonna get it and put it in the chat. You'll have it before we leave now, but let's keep moving because time is of the essence. So we have a few polls I want to ask you as we go through this, and if you can answer them if you're comfortable. But first one I want to ask is I want to learn a little bit about you. So if you could put into the chat where you are when it comes to retirement. How far away are you? So put a 1 if you're 10 years away from retirement, a 2 if you're 5 to 10 years away, 3 if you are 1 to 5 years away, a 4 if you're eligible right now today, and a 5 if you recently retired. Okay, so I'm seeing, okay, 3 to 4. 3 to 4, is that like 6, 7? 3 to 4, okay. 1, all right, all right. So we have people who are from each area. 1.5, okay, that's that's different. Okay, 3 to 4. Okay, all right, all right. Well, you know what? I appreciate it. I'm glad that we have some 3 to 4s. I didn't put 6 to 7. 1.5. Wherever you are, you're still in the right place to make sure that you are getting the information that you need. So here is the next poll. How confident are you in your retirement readiness? Put a 1 if you're very confident, 2, somewhat confident, 3 if you're not confident, or 4 if you're just unsure. Okay, so again, I'm getting some 3s. I see some 4s too. Okay, no 1s. I guess you wouldn't be here if you had a one, but it doesn't mean that you wouldn't be here. It would just mean that you just want some more information. So, okay, I'm glad that we see we have some threes. By the time we finish today, you're going to be able to raise that number up. All right. And here is our last poll. What area of retirement concerns you the most? Is it the eligibility, understanding what that means to you, retirement, the benefits, about your annuity and things like that? Is it income? Is it health care? Is it life after retirement? So I'm seeing two threes, seeing two and threes, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, 3, 4, 5. Okay, all right. All of them. Okay, okay. All right, so we're going to cover a little bit of everything, and we'll make sure that you walk away being a little more confident, then at least raise the number, maybe a half a point. Like I saw Neil was like at 1.5. So we're going to get that up to at least a half a point, if not a full point, by the time you finish today. So again, why does it matter to do it in the middle of the year? Well, many times employees only review their retirement when they are ready to retire, or there's something going on within the organization, like a reduction in force or a reorg. Sometimes it's a health issue, either their personal health or the health of a family member. Or, they receive a retirement estimate, which usually falls in line is they wait to get the estimate when they are ready to retire. But the reality is preparation works well before decisions become urgent. Let me say that again. Preparation works well before decisions become urgent. When decisions become urgent, things are normally forgotten and mistakes are made. We all know someone who retired over the past year and a half. I just mentioned that I did that. And a lot of them left because of the changes that happened in the federal government. And I've spoken to many of them. I'm sure that you are aware of that. And a lot of them didn't have a lot of time to make the clear decisions that they needed to make in order to feel confident in their retirement. And these are very important decisions that impact the rest of your life. Because once you make some of these decisions as a retiree, you can't just go back and change it like you did as a active employee. It takes a lot more to make changes to certain decisions that you make. So I want to ask you this question for you to think about. What are you postponing when it comes to preparing for retirement? What are you postponing when it comes to preparing for retirement? You don't have to put the question or response into the chat. I want you to think about that. Now, why is retirement planning matters? Well, according to the U.S. Census Bureau, approximately 10,000 Americans turn 65 each day. And that was a projection from 2011 to 2029. So that really means that 3,650,000 people turn 65 each year. And over the last 15 years, from 2011 to 2026, that means that 54,750,000 people have turned 65. Well, we know 65 is a magic number, right? People look at 65 as the time to retire. That's when you're eligible for Medicare. And so that's a lot of people. Every day, 10,000 people. Every year, 3,650,000 people are turning age 65. Now, keep those numbers in mind, because the average healthcare cost for a person age 65 that retired, the cost in 2025 was $172,500. Imagine that number for each person, 10,000 people a day, 3,600,000 450,000 people a year having to deal with that cost. And that does not include long-term care. So with inflation over the next 10 years or so, that one number can go up to between 229,585 to 408,370. That's just an estimate projection for each person. And we know that our cost of living, things that we are buying, everything is increasing all the time. So how are we going to make sure that we're planning accurately and confidently and efficiently for our retirement? You know, an issue for some retirees is that they underestimate everyday costs and how much structure they need in retirement. So we're going to be talking about some areas, 5 areas in which you should be looking at and ready. The first area is about your retirement timeline. So here's some things I want to ask you. Do you know your retirement eligibility? Do you know your retirement service computation date? Your retirement service computation date. This date, your retirement service computation date, may be different than your leave service computation date. See, on your SF50, you only see the leave service computation date. But if, let's say, if you had military service and you didn't pay back your military time, or you had temporary service, or things like that, then that could change your retirement service computation date. All right. That date, that's the retirement computation date, it is the one that is used to determine your retirement eligibility and your retirement annuity. So it's very important that you know what that is. Your minimum retirement age. Do you know what that is for you based on your years of service? And are you going to retire at your minimum retirement age, or do you plan on waiting? Your years of service. How many years of service do you have now? Are they enough for you to retire right now and live the lifestyle you expect? Or do you need to wait a little bit longer? Your retirement estimate. If you retire now, will your annuity be sufficient for your retirement lifestyle? And then one thing that people, I think, really don't pay attention to or don't know enough about is your sick leave balance. With the sick leave balance, do you understand how that sick leave balance benefits you in the calculation of your retirement annuity? So these are things that I know I'm going to be throwing out a lot of questions to you for you to think about. You want to go back and watch this recording again so you can capture everything. But here's another question to ponder. What assumptions have you made about your retirement timeline that you need to verify? So the next area we want to talk about are your benefits, what you need to review. Again, the middle of the year is the best time to do this because you have time before you need to make any decisions that may have changes that become effective January 1st of the following year, no matter whether you retire or not. So let's go over some things that you need to review. Your health insurance. How well has your current health insurance served you and your family to this point? Sometimes we just stay with the same carrier just because it's convenient. But really, have you looked to see, what changes, large or small, have you noticed in your health insurance and what they offer? As well as what changes, large or small, have your family or you experienced over the past few years to make sure that the health insurance that you have is sufficient for you and your family needs. So let me just tell you one little story that I have. I've had the same health insurance plan for the past 14 years. Loved it, loved it, loved it. Nationwide plan. But I noticed something over the past 6 months or so where I'm starting to have a little more out-of-pocket costs for same services that I was I wasn't paying anything for in the past. Now, I was seeing things online where people were saying, oh, you might want to change this from this company because they're starting to charge more. I didn't pay attention to that. But now it's hitting my pocket. So that means that I need to look coming up this open season to make sure that what I have will still be sufficient. Maybe talking with my doctors to make sure that what it is that they are providing or what they're accepting would be a new plan for me. So there are a lot of variables in this to make sure that the health insurance company that I select will be the best for me. But also, I have a question for you. If you had to change your health insurance, what is the first thing that you would research outside of the premium? We know that I mentioned about cost, but we also have to look at services. For example, if it's going to cost me more to go to a doctor, a specialist, or any type of services that I already have, and my premium may go up or stay the same, I might stay with who I'm with, or I might change. Yes, those out-of-pocket costs, those co-pays, things like that. Those are the things that we need to look out for in addition to the premiums to make sure that we are having the best health insurance for ourselves and our family needs. Life insurance. When was the last time you reviewed your life insurance, whether you're a current federal employee or you're a retiree? When was the last time you reviewed how much coverage you currently have? When was the last time you determined whether it was enough, it might be too little, or it might be too much? And do you really understand the premiums now as an active employee, how much is being deducted, based on the amount of coverage you have for life insurance, and then how those premiums will change once you retire? Yeah, right before that, not necessarily the basic, Wendy, and I'll try to go back to address this. So if you have questions and if I miss it or a comment and I miss it when we go back and turn off the recording, please bring it to my attention again, because I do want to address that about the life insurance a little bit. Okay, TSP. When was the last time you reviewed your TSP contributions and how they're being distributed within each fund to make sure that you are really receiving the funds, earnings that are best for you as you're approaching your retirement or wherever you are currently within your federal service? How do you know that the amount that you're contributing is sufficient for you as you go into your retirement and the lifestyle that you want to lead? Also, beneficiary forms. Who are listed on your beneficiary forms? And when was the last time you updated them? Long-term care. What are your long-term care plans? What type of long-term care needs do you anticipate having? And survivor benefits. What are the current needs of your spouse and children? How do you expect those needs to change in the future after you retire? And how will those needs affect your retirement lifestyle? So, another question to ponder. Which area of your benefits have you been postponing because it feels overwhelming? Which area of your benefits have you been postponing because it feels overwhelming? And I want to take a minute to talk about beneficiary forms because they are very important. One of the things that people think is that if they tell their family that they're going to get certain things from their federal benefits, then that's what it is. But once they pass away, when that federal employee or retiree passes away, we have to go by the paperwork. So you want to make sure that your beneficiary forms are up to date. You also cannot just say, oh, it's going to go according to my will. That has to be in writing on the beneficiary form. So there is verbiage on the beneficiary forms, examples of what you need to write verbatim. to say you want your life insurance, your thrift savings plan money, your unpaid compensation, your retirement if you don't have a spouse, then you want that verbiage written down on your beneficiary form, even if it's a contingency. So let's say you have a spouse and you have children, you want everything to go to your spouse. And then if your spouse predeceased you, then you want to go to your children. It has to be written out in a certain way in order for those things to happen. So you want to make sure that you're reviewing all of that information. For your TSP beneficiary forms, that's online. You can go into your TSP account and see that. Your life insurance, your retirement, unpaid compensation, those beneficiary forms are in your EOPF. So your agency gives you access to that. You'll be able to go in and look at those things. What's the risk of not making sure that they're updated? Well, when you don't update your beneficiary forms, then your money and what you thought was going to go to the family member that you mentioned or thought the friend or whoever you wanted to go to, it's not going to go to that person. It's going to go to whoever's listed on a beneficiary form. And if you don't have a beneficiary form on file, it's going to go in order of precedent. And that's a lot. The order of precedent cannot, may not be what you really want it to go to. So you want to make sure those beneficiary forms are updated. You also want to make sure that there are no errors on the beneficiary forms. And what I mean by no errors is that you want to make sure that there's no scratch outs, whiteouts. I said whiteouts, yes, or erasers on the beneficiary form. Now, you can go online and type in the information, but you have to print it out and it has to have a wet signature for yourself and your witnesses. So if you wrote in the wrong date, you can't scratch out that date and put in the correct date and just initial it. You have to do a new form. If your witnesses write something incorrectly when they're signing it, then you have to do a new form, and that makes the form invalid. And I want to go back also to say about updating the forms. You know, there are times when we look at things and situations, and they are a life event, but they may not be our life event. They could affect someone else that we know, but it impacts the things that we do. So, for example, my oldest daughter got married. She changed her name. I had to make sure that I went and updated my beneficiary forms and it had her new legal name because I wanted to make sure that there were no mistakes, nothing wrong. If I pass away, I want to make sure that they have the correct name for her to make sure she gets all the paperwork and everything that she needs to get in order to get what I'm leaving her. So the life event may not be directly your life event, but it could affect the things that you're doing. All right. Our next readiness area is retirement income. FERS annuity. Do you understand how the FERS annuity is actually calculated when it's based on years of service and your age? That's not always what people understand. With TSP, when do you plan on starting to use your TSP money? When do you want to withdraw it? How are you going to withdraw it? Because that does give tax implications on how you withdraw it. If you withdraw it as a lump sum versus a monthly payment or change it to an annuity, those things matter. Again, I'm not the tax person, but I do know that much. So you want to understand about how you're going to withdraw it, when you're going to start withdrawing it, what age, and how long will it last you, and is it going to be sufficient for your retirement lifestyle? Social Security, when will you start receiving Social Security? And will you have another job after you retire? A W-2 job where you're an employee or your own business after you retire? The FERS supplement, the same thing. It falls in the same rules as Social Security. If you retire before age 62, then you're going to receive that bridge money of a FERS supplement that replaces Social Security. So are you going to work? And if you are going to work, what type of job are you going to have? how much income, how long do you plan on working? That applies also to the Social Security. When you're looking at your annuity estimates, when was the last time you reviewed it? What did it say? Now, if you work for a federal agency that's serviced by the National Finance Center as your payroll office, then every year they do what's called an annual benefit statement, and it's located in your employee personal page account. I was told that it was just uploaded maybe around the end of June. Every year it seems to be getting later and later. It used to be there back in February, March, then it was April, now it's June. But you can go in and it will show all of your benefits and all the information as of pay period 26 of 2025. And it'll give you a rough estimate of how much you would receive if you retired at certain ages. So here's another question I want you to ponder. What would greater confidence around retirement income allow you to do differently today? What would greater confidence around your retirement income allow you to do differently today? So here are some common mistakes that I have seen people make, and I want to make sure that you avoid these mistakes. We talked about TSP, right? But I don't want you to focus solely on the TSP. Although TSP is very important, it is one of the 3 legs or tiers to your retirement if you're under FERS. You have the FERS annuity, you have the FERS supplement or Social Security, and TSP. So they're all very important, but you don't want to focus solely on your TSP. You want to make sure that your TSP is what you need it to be for your retirement lifestyle. And so you want to make sure that you are, yes, your focus should be a complete wellness. It should be whatever you need it to be for yourself. So don't compare your TSP account to somebody else's account. Don't let anybody make you feel bad about what you have or don't have in your account. You do what you have to do, and you're here now to learn and be educated and move forward with doing the things that you need to do. Don't ignore inflation. As we talked about in the previous slide, healthcare costs are going to rise. Cost of living is going to rise. For FERS employees, if you retire before age 62, you do not receive the annual cost of living increase. So how are you going to make sure that you are keeping up with the cost of living for those years before age 62 if you retire before age 62? Those are things I want you to think about. Don't delay in learning. We know that doesn't apply to you because you are here today and you're going to be with me for future webinars so you can continue to learn and grow. You're going to have consultations with me so you can continue to learn and grow. But you want to make sure that you tell those who weren't able to be here today to, hey, make sure that you become retirement literate. Make sure that you are connecting with Sharon, and she can be able to help you to be ready for retirement and understand all the aspects of the federal benefits and retirement system. We also don't want you to make assumptions. Again, what applies to you may not apply to someone else. So make sure that you are asking those questions. It goes to the last one. Ask those questions that you need to ask about what's going on with you. It doesn't matter if the question is the same question over and over again. You have to ask it in different ways. You ask the question until you get the clarity that you need. You want to make sure that you become retirement literate because knowledge reduces uncertainty. So we want to also talk about healthcare. Make sure you're reviewing your health insurance. Make sure you're reviewing your dental and vision insurance. If you have it within your medical, then you want to see what those are, what that service is, and to see if you need to get supplemental dental or vision. What I found out is that for myself, as I got older, my vision changed. I went from being nearsighted to farsighted. I didn't even know that could happen until my, doctor told me. And so I'm already wearing, progressives, and I have to keep up changing with my glasses. So I have always had supplemental dental vision, but that might not be for everybody. So you want to make sure that you are having what you need based on your family needs and your family history. What is your family history? Make sure you're aware of that so you can be able to anticipate some needs that you might need. Medicare, planning for that. If you're 65 or older, or when approaching 65, you have to make sure that you understand the rules and regulations as it applies to that. And if you're still working, you want to make sure you understand that if you're still working and you're 65 or older, you also want to make sure that you understand how Medicare works with your health plan, because there are certain things. If you're still working and you're receiving Medicare, then your health insurance from the federal government is primary, but once you stop working, then it becomes secondary. You want to make sure you understand that. The health needs of your family, what are they currently? Will they decrease, remain the same, or increase once you start to go towards retirement? Prescription costs. We talked about medical costs already, so we understand, we know that costs continue to rise. How are you going to anticipate those rising needs? So again, another question to ponder: what are your future health needs that you should be preparing for today? What future health needs should you be preparing for today? And then we want to make sure that we are ready for that life after retirement. What life looks like after federal service. So last month, for those of you joined me last month, we talked about retirement was more than money. It's more than money. It is all about our identity, our purpose, the routine that we are changing from going into the office and working, and the relationships that we have there, to something different, and the confidence that we may have as a working person, and the duties and the title that we have, to not being in that same position. So you want to make sure that you go to my website, Royalty Business Group. You want to go to the YouTube page and find that particular webinar, Retirement is More Than Money, and look that over so you can be able to learn more about, hey, what do I need to know about my identity, my purpose, my routine, the relationships and confidence, in order for me to look at a more healthy and flowing retirement lifestyle. Because the risk of not doing those things, it could be the loss of identity, it could be feeling isolated, lack of structure, because you had structure before, but how can you incorporate structure that you want to have into retirement? How can you make sure that you're not losing your identity just because you don't have that same job title? How can you make sure that you're not feeling isolated because you're not around those same people anymore? That you still have that emotional adjustment that you have to get through because you're not going through the same routines and flows, and that you have purpose. We all have purpose. So we want to make sure that we are prepared emotionally and mentally before retirement. So here are a few things that we talked about. That's a checklist. And again, when you scan the QR code, when it comes back up, you'll be able to find the handout that has this checklist and a lot more information. So you want to make sure that you review your EOPF, your electronic official personnel folder, that you are reviewing your beneficiary forms. You do it when you have a major life event, or someone that's listed on your beneficiary form has a major life event. You want to make sure you're reviewing your health insurance and what services they offer, and the out-of-pocket costs, in addition to the premium that you'll be paying every month or every pay period. The life insurance, is it enough? Is it too much? What will it do or change as I get older and I'm still an employee? Or what will it do or change once I retire? And your retirement estimate, especially as you get closer to retirement, If you are 3 years out, then your agency will probably start to give you an estimate. But the closer you get to retirement date, you want to make sure that you are getting those estimates so you can make a more educated decision about your money and what's coming in, what's going to be going out, and how that all works together. Talk with your family or those that are important to you about your retirement needs and what you plan on doing in retirement. And what is it that you envision for your life after retirement? Because life continues and you want to make sure that it's fulfilling for you. So now here's another poll. Now that you've gone over all this, and I know it's been a lot, I want you to put into the chat, where do you feel you are now? How confident are you about your retirement readiness today? So 1 to 3, 4 to 6, 7 to 10. Because, before you might not have gone through and known that you are a little closer. Okay, I see we have an 8. I know Doug's not the only one. Who else? Okay, 6. I see some 6s. Okay, all right. Well, I know 7. Okay. Now, one thing I want you to think about is what would move you 1 point higher. After going through all this, after reviewing, the information that you're going to get, what will get you 1 point higher? And you don't have to put it in the chat. I just want you to think about it. So here's some things I want you to do before the end of the year. I want you to review everything, review your records, review your estimate, know your eligibility, know where you stand. Increase your retirement literacy. Continue to attend webinars that are provided by reputable companies like myself and other companies out there. If you have questions or think, like, even if I say something, you're like, I don't think that's right, Sharon, you can question me, challenge me. I'll make sure that I research it and get you the correct information. Also, again, ask questions, get the support from those who have the experience and knowledge, those professionals that can help you to get the information that you need so you can have the clarity and confidence as you move into your next life or continue in your retirement life or in your current career. So, of course, I'm going to put out here how I can help. I can help you in various ways. You will make sure that you reach out to me and schedule that 15-minute consultation where we can talk about what's specific for you. I'm also putting together group programs where you'll be able to hear and be in an atmosphere with other people and be able to say, hey, that's going on with me too. Let me hear what is going on with them. And also the life after federal service. What does that look like for you? I can work with you to help you to scale that out, to determine what direction you need to go through coaching and consultation, and you can put that down. And it's always a work in progress. It's always a living document. You don't have to say, this is it, and I'm not going to change it. It's always flowing. I also want to tell you about my next webinar that's coming up, Protecting Your Federal Benefits. It's actually a 2-parter. So you want to make sure that when you scan the QR code, I'm going to drop the link in the chat shortly. You'll be able to understand a little bit more. We're going to go in a little more depth on this 2-part series about protecting your benefits. So make sure that you register for this webinar. Now, here's a question to ponder. As a result of today's webinar, what is one action that you're willing to take before the end of this year to become more retirement ready? And here's some information for you to connect with me. Again, you can scan the QR code and be able to schedule the 15-minute consultation, as well as you'll find the links to my website You'll be able to download the PDF document that I created for you. So make sure that you get everything that you can get. And I thank you for joining, but don't drop off yet. What I'm going to do now is stop the recording, and we're going to answer the questions that you have. So just a moment, let me stop the recording.